There's quite a number of areas that we would need ENASO to help. Just recently, before I came to this interview, I've already sent an email to Onesimus and Loda. Apparently, the Diversity Forum, they're already developing their priorities. Sometimes, you know, nowadays, civil society is not all about us bringing forward the issues, maybe on the ground, maybe they have lived experiences, but we are looking for evidence-based data. So another critical area that I would think ENASO will be so helpful is to help Malawi, a civil society, not only Diversity Forum, but at large. How best can we ensure that the priorities that we are bringing forward, they are evidence-based? I understand we have different policies, you know, we have documents that we can maybe relate to, but sometimes we just, like maybe the priorities that I've sent from the key populations in Malawi, they just like bullet points. Like, okay, we're looking for maybe services in maybe access for services, but what are the evidence? So I think that's a gap that we need ENASO to come in and assist. And also, we have an issue in terms of costing. I know that we have applied for TA, and one of the elements is that they should assist us in the costing of the priorities. Also, ENASO can come in terms of how best can we ensure that maybe all the priorities that we have brought forward, they are costed. And in essence, as you're aware that Global Fund did not meet the replenishment of 18 billion. In essence, I think the priorities they'll be strict. So also we would like to be advised how best can we ensure that the priorities that we are bringing forward, they are really conducive so that they cannot be denied. So I think that's an area that we need support from ENASO. As you have always been supportive, we're also looking forward for the same.
There are things that needs to be changed. For example, the TA that they've been providing or supporting the countries, it's been only stopping at the level of the national, the CSO consultations. There were no supports for example, for the grant making period and grant implementation. So I think it's quite very important for the ENASO to see how it can support not only the CSO's consultation prior to the grant application when the country is preparing to start writing the application. So they can support all the processes so that the CSOs are able to keep in all the processes track, and then more especially we always use consultants where the consultants work with the CSOs, the community groups. That's how we are getting empowered. So if we could have a consultant to take us through, to go with us through all the processes during the grant making, then the grant writing, and then grant making, then grant negotiation, and then grant implementation. That would make much more sense, and also support the CSOs so that they don't get lost within the process. Because, for example, if it's during the grant making, there are the TRP comments that are being provided to countries. And most of the times you find they are also the comments provided at the part of the communities or CSOs. And if we don't have support there, then it becomes so hard for us as CSOs and communities to respond to those comments. So if the ENASO keeps on providing that support, then it would become so easier to make sure that CSOs are supported, are able to respond to those comments, and then they are able to engage with the government in terms of considering the responses to those raised comments or issues. Yeah.
At one point during the TA, what happened is that we were in direct communication with the Global Fund, and there was a lot back and forth in the TA documentation that we wrote. So mostly from our perspective, it's like what we wanted to see happen from the TA was a bit changed. Maybe it was changed for the better, but maybe also to have our perspective on that change that is being done would have been better. So that's not from the ENASO actually, that's right from the Global Fund. But I know they have lots of experiences, so that's why they changed it to the way it is now. But maybe if we are all working together, if the ENASO continues within the process from the start to the end of a TA, that would be much better, and not just like be like the watchdog for the TA, but also is together with us over the TA, so that if we are not agreeable to stuff, at least we can turn to the NSO and say, what the Global Fund is proposing is actually great, but what we know of what's happening in Mauritius, it doesn't really fit that context. So maybe the NSO can be the liaison between us and the Global Fund or any other TA provider. That would be great.
The support for communities and civil society, especially young people living with HIV and young people in their diversity, including young people who use drugs, is one of the important areas that YANASO should continue working in and also intensify. But not just for community dialogue and others, but I think YANASO should start looking at a long-term TA that will take this group of people through until submission. And after that, implementation is very important, because if we submit during the prioritization, during the budgeting, the negotiation, all this group of people are not part of it. And so you realize that some of their priorities are taken out. And so government priority become the key. But we all know that community system strengthening is supposed to support communities, persons living with the disease, community-based organizations, and civil society. And we want YANASO to provide TA to journey with civil society communities up to implementation, to enable them monitor. I know one of the key things YANASO is doing is also the community-led monitoring, which is very, very important, very key, especially for the new strategy that Global Fund is starting now. And what we want YANASO, which is the regional platform that we have now in Africa, should be strengthened, should be resourced to provide all of us that support in sub-Saharan Africa. I think that's the only platform we have now providing and giving us that support. And so at this meeting, we continue calling on donors, partners to invest adequately in strengthening YANASO to be able to support us, because the NFM4, the expectation, the high targets are very important for all of us to achieve and to ensure that communities and people are at the center of the implementation. And so if we have this short TA and we are not able to follow to the end, we will not be able to achieve our target. And so YANASO needs that support. And we also want to strengthen YANASO to continue the big and the great work they are doing in Anglophone and Francophone Africa.